Hello everyone, I am back again. And an update. I had a busy day yesterday. I got up and pulled off 5 parts that came off of the printer. They'd been printing for 4 days solid. This is the little $99 Creality Ender 3 Pro that has just been working like a champ. Out of the box, I haven't had to do anything at all to it. So anyway, I pulled those off and went to go put the next one on, because everything takes 3 to 4 days on this printer. So I went to go put more parts on, more models on, and I have a bad issue with, for some reason, the models look good on the 3D software I use, any 3D program I load it into. It looks good in the slicer when I load it in, but when I slice it, parts of the body just vanish. I have no clue why they do that or what to do about it, but after messing with it for a couple of hours, I finally decided, I need to put something on this printer so it's not sitting idle. So I'm printing something now. It's not ideally what I wanted to print, but anything's better than nothing. Let's see, so then, what did I do? Then I went over to Charlie Strickland's and helped him load up his stuff. He's going on a trip, long road trip, to I think a couple of weeks, delivering things, picking up things. Unfortunately, I didn't think of it this morning, but I should have recorded his trailer loaded up, done a video on that. It's interesting to see how he puts all this stuff on top of a normal car trailer and straps it down, uses 2x4s screwed together to some kind of contraption so that he can overload this trailer as far as size-wise, not load-wise, but size-wise, put all this stuff on there. He's got a McLaurin body, the molds for McLaurin body that he's delivering, along with one of his aluminum composite monocoque chassis that I'm going to work with him to redesign to fit all my cars. Then we stopped by a shop in Hearst that they are the licensed sellers of a V16 engine that is made from putting two Chevy LS motors together. The thing puts out some kind of, very impressive horsepower. I don't remember if he said it was 1,500 horsepower, but it was something like that. And of course, in my mind, I'm sitting there trying to think, what in the world could you put two LS motors back to back in? But anyway, he has a vehicle that's designed, and they're going to do that. The vehicle is being shipped off to the Middle East somewhere when it's done. Obviously, it's a huge budget. The other thing is, I asked if he'd be willing to do an interview for my YouTube channel, and his first question was, how many subscribers do you have? So I told him I'm right 3,080, I think, right now. So anyway, look forward to that. He said I think it would be next week before the motor will be in, but I'll go ahead and do that interview and you can see the motor. He also has a 3D printer that's in between this one and the Modix. So there are some things that this one's limited to that I can't do. So I'm going to see about having them do some prints for me so that I can get some bigger versions of these models for the design. All right, let me go ahead and show you where I'm at, what I'm doing. All right, and we'll go ahead and start here. This battery came with the kit car and trailer. It was stone dead, of course, and the little box came. It has a dead battery in it as well, but I found out from the past that I can plug that in, tell it to charge the battery, internal battery, and even if the internal battery is bad, if I hook up an external battery, it will try to charge both of them. When I first started, it read down at the bottom, which is, hard to see here, I think, but, there we go, 11 volts. And then when I push the button, the voltage meter would just bounce from the 11 to like 13 and a half, and just keep bouncing back and forth. But it's been charging for a day now, So now if I push the test button, it still bounces, but the range that it bounces is much lower, and it finally stabilizes. Before it wouldn't even stabilize. So I am fairly confident that it is charging this battery, which was my goal. It'd be great if it would charge the internal battery and this thing would work. But the AC power, when I hit it, it flashes a little bit and then it turns green. So later on, I'm going to find something to plug into this. Almost everything I own now is battery powered. So I have to find something to plug in there. See if that works. Not sure what the current and all that is. So anyway, there's that. The light is very bright. And then the air compressor at least runs. No clue if it works or not. And then of course I'm using it to charge. All right, next thing. This is the card that got printed. This is straight off the printer. I changed some settings. I did a tree support structure. What it does is it makes a thin skin around the actual part. So that's both good and bad. It's good because it is a thin skin and it comes off relatively easily. It's kind of bad because if you have thin areas of these models weren't necessarily made to be printed. They were made to be, quote, accurate. Although when I measure, they're not really accurate. But sometimes if they're small parts, they break off when you're trying to get that skin off. But it did come off relatively easily, and the surface finish isn't bad. I don't remember what I set the surface finish for, if this was the highest level of detail or not. But the good thing was it wasn't a lot of force required to remove the supports, but it was a lot of work required. Not that it was difficult, but it was just time consuming. The reason this is significant is because the supports were actually inside of the car. So I had to take a screwdriver. I used a screwdriver and got in there and had to dig them out. Everything had a second skin on it. It did a nice level of detail on the bottom. But again, the issue I had, there was a suspension there in the front, but it was so thin, just like that little piece that you see there. The exhaust got broken off. You can see parts of the A-arms here. Well, the front had those A-arms as well, but they were that small. And then when I broke off, you can see a little bit of that skin right there. When I broke it off, the suspension came with it. Not that it matters. Obviously, I wouldn't be using a, what is this, 100-year-old car. Not quite 100, but close to it. Suspension design. I just needed the body, and on some of these, I want the frame design. And again, not that I'm going to use the same frame, but those will give me dimensions that I need, assuming that these are dimensionally accurate. The next one I'm going to do, I believe, is dimensionally accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and design, assuming that. I can always change it in the 3D model. But this is a really nice model. I haven't even sanded it. All I did was I used a screwdriver to knock off what would come off. And then I used a nylon brush because there was some stringing there. I might do something to help improve the stringing. The reason I'm printing these cars is mostly to get the front end. I've got my car mostly designed, my new car design. Struggling with the front end. What front end do I want on it? Do I like this one or that one? So this was another design. I kind of like it, but the feedback I've gotten that it's a bit dated. And I'm trying to make a modernized version of these Art Deco cars. So the feeling was that that's not modernized, that's dated looking. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I should have gotten the other model and shown it to you, well, to compare. I'll do that later because this next one, the next one I'm printing, you'll see in a second, is a C2 Corvette. And again, it's not ideally what I wanted to print, but it won't be bad to have since I'm doing the C8 to C2. Oh, it's not just C2, it's a Grand Sport. So it's just a reference piece. And again, printed as big as it'll fit on this printer. That's what we'll go to now. here is it. It is, if we look at this, let's see. So remaining is 20, it's 53% done. Remain 20 hours still left. And it has been running for 23 hours. There's that tree support I was talking about on the outside. This part right here is pure support for, ends up being for the wheel opening. If you take this and put this up here, it can't print anything in thin air, and so it needs support for the any horizontal area can't be printed. So that long support is to support the bottom of that tire and the bottom of the front fender because they can't be in thin air. Oh, and there you can see, okay, so see how I said that tree support went through the interior? So if you look, when that thing gets out of the way, there is tubes. There's a tube right there, there's another tube. All of that is that tree support that is just supporting something that is going to be horizontal that is not yet printed. But you can see it goes all through the interior there. So when this is done, I'm going to break that off. Have to break that off. Same thing here on the outside. It went ahead and it printed this tree structure right here. So I'm going to have to break that off. Like I said, luckily it breaks off easily, but it does do a lot of tree structure. Again, the good thing is it doesn't touch, even though it runs parallel to that, it doesn't touch the body there, so that comes off easily. But you can see that this tree right here was needed to support that part of the fender that would be horizontal. It's underneath here. So it made a connection. Here's the tree, we'll call it the trunk, and there's where the branch comes off and supports only where it needs to be supported, but it does run parallel to the entire body. Let's see, the bottom, it has a massive trunk there. Same thing, it doesn't need that support all along there, but somewhere up on the top, it's going to need that support. Anyway, I'll show you that when it's done. Here is the print I tried to print on the Modix printer. It did like it usually does. It printed for, I don't know, this is probably a couple of hours worth of print. What happened was it didn't stick to the, it warped. The front didn't stick to the bed. So what happened is with the back flat, the front ended up lifting up. That's quite a bit. And so the head crashed into it. It broke the thing. And so then it stopped printing. When anytime, so you can see, look how bad that warp is. So the other thing that kind of bothers me is if you look, that's not connected. The way I thought I was going to fix the issue was I had the only problem I've had with reality is one of the supports broke off, but I didn't have a raft. I just had a brim, so it would only print where it needed to. Well, there was a support way over this before I used tree supports. There was a support way over here, and then right there in the base. Well, one of these over here broke off, didn't stick to the plate, and so when it got up there, it was just printing strings. So it printed the body up until anything that was supported from the main support, but anything that was over here was just strings of filament. So that's when I said, you know what, I'm going to put a raft underneath everything, and that makes it to where the supports aren't isolated supports. Then, like I said, I found the tree support, and that does that as well. Anyway, what happened is the head crashed in there. It broke off the probe, the Z probe, Z height probe. I could have gone in and downloaded some new firmware that took the support, the probe out of it and manually leveled the table, but it would only save me a day's worth of work. Found out that they're an expendable part, those probes. I guess they know that they're going to crash in every once in a while because things happen when you 3D print. And I just ordered them. They were less than $10 for 5 of them, and they'll be in Friday. So it's a couple of days that printer's down, but that printer hasn't worked right since day one. So what's a couple more days of waiting for some parts. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to fix the stupid 3D models that won't print right. They print everything except for the skin of, if I turn on the supports are all there, but the actual skin of the surface is not there. So it would be like this whole matrix of support material. It'd be like a skeleton, basically, of the car. And the supports don't get printed well. I think I showed you that. In fact, I know I did. I showed you that other print that it did. It did the exact same thing. So I thought it was something with the printer. It's not. It's something with the files themselves. So I've got another one of the many learning curves to go through to figure out what to do. The challenge is you've got designers that design to 3D print. And most of those are silly little things, you know, all the things that you see 3D printed. You've got car designers that either A, they design for video games or just 3D images, but there's no physical existence of it. Then you have, so the problem with those is the problem I'm running into, that while it can exist in computer space, it can't exist in real space. There's things called vectors and stuff like that that they're pointing the wrong direction. And so there's no physical representation of those. Then you have car designers that start with a typical 3D program. The problem is 3D programs have a really hard time with organic shapes like a car body. They do great on, you know, like suspension or something like that, things that are very angular, but things that are flowing, they have issues with. So the problem is you really need someone that knows all three of those areas very well. The issue there is basically they charge $5,000 for initial consultation, $10,000 for a first set of files, and then another $10,000 to $15,000 for a final set of files. So by the time you're done, you've got $35,000 in a model. Then you have to go get something physical out of that, and that's between another $15,000, $20,000 or more $1,000 to get either molds or plugs or whatever you need to actually physically make a car. So it is cost prohibitive. It ends up costing you $50,000 to $100,000 to make an initial body. So that's out of my price range. So I'm doing these others, trying to figure out how can I get all this to work. I thought I had it done, but like I said, I'm having problems with the 3D printing. And if I'm having problems with 3D printing, then I can't scale it up. So that's what I'm going to work on today. All right, I think that's got everything covered. Tomorrow, there'll be another video that will be this finished Grand Sport. I should have multiple other bodies, hopefully, if I can get the design done. Then a day or two later from that, I will be able to go back and fight with the Modix printer. And finally, that same shop has a 3D printer that's in between what this can do and what Modix should be able to do. They said it works perfectly, so I'm going to go have them do some files, again, once I get my files fixed. Or, in their case, I can actually have them print larger scale pieces of these things. So, I got a busy week, as usual. All right, well, that's all I've got. So, like, subscribe, hit the alert, hit the thanks if you want to help. And if you don't like what I'm doing, you don't know Jack. Bye.